We all like a great story, but how about a story of overcoming much adversity in life and physical limitations too? Well, the story of LeRoy Butler has these elements and more that helped shape his Hall of Fame career with the Green Bay Packers and Florida State Seminoles. We have this and more coming up in just a moment.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history on a day-to-day basis. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time. So as we come out of the tunnel of the Sports History Network, let's take the field and go no huddle through the portal of positive gridiron history with pigskindispatch.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of pigskindispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pigpen, your portal to positive football history. And as we peer into that portal, back into the football of yesteryear, we come across some of these great players and legends, and some of them even made the Hall of Fame. And we're going to be talking about one of those individuals today. To play 12 seasons in the NFL is quite an accomplishment. To play on a Super Bowl winning team, invent one of the top touchdown celebrations of all time, it does something to an NFL career that no DB has ever done before, and as a repetitive all-pro in the NFL during the course of a dozen years in professional football is utterly amazing. These are some of the accolades of strong safety LeRoy Butler. Let's start at the beginning of his football story, though. LeRoy Butler III was born in Jacksonville, Florida on July 19, 1968. He grew up there in Jayville in the Blodgett Homes Housing Project, according to LeRoyButlerInc.com. His parents separated when he was very young, and LeRoy had three siblings that all lived with his mother, Eunice, in a small apartment in the projects. The family had plenty to deal with as they lived in poverty in a crime-ridden area of the city, and LeRoy had some physical issues to tend with. The boy's feet were severely pigeon-toed to the point where the only correction was surgery. So at a mere 8 months of age, physicians had to break the bones of Butler's feet to resolve the condition, in what had to be an excruciatingly painful procedure. It was not something that healed quickly either, as the boy spent most of his early childhood in a wheelchair, and then he became school-aged. He needed to wear leg braces to walk. Not a normal, healthy childhood at all for this young man, and a bleak expert prognosis was that he would probably never walk normally, if at all. As fate would have it, one day while sitting in his wheelchair, an 8-year-old LeRoy was suddenly knocked out of the chair and separated from his braces when his older sister ran excitedly from the family home. Shaken, LeRoy gathered himself and found that not only could he walk normally without apparatus assistance but to collect his items, but he could also run. In fact, just moments later, amazingly, he joined in a neighborhood kickball game. What a thrill that must have been for a young man that had sat and watched these games being played all his life, and now he could participate in an instant. Less than 2 years removed from needing the wheelchair, Butler was playing on the local youth football team. He played through the ranks at that level of ball, learning the fundamentals of the game, and he had become an exceptional player. So good that the Jacksonville Gridiron High School powerhouse, Robert E. Lee High School's Generals, recruited him to come out and play football. The Generals football coach was none other than the winningest scholastic coach in Florida State history, Corky Rogers, whose teams were winners of 8 state titles. Butler was one of Lee High School's top players, and he was a unanimous All-American pick, and he was also heavily recruited by colleges all across the country. The youngster suffered more than tragedy in his life when he witnessed a good friend die, though. The boys were at a bus stop when they witnessed a shootout during a police chase. They ran away from the incident to get away from trouble, but soon LeRoy discovered that he was running all alone. His friend had succumbed to a stray bullet to the head that had killed the youth, per a story on the golongtd.com website. The strength of the faith and the support of his loving mother, uncles, and grandmother helped the youngster overcome the tragedy and circumstances of the environment he lived in and to go on to some bigger and better things. Now, LeRoy carefully weighed all of his options and finally accepted a football scholarship at the Florida State University. He was part of a talented secondary for the Seminoles as Butler shared the defensive backfield for 2 years with the two-sport superstar Deion Sanders. Butler was a 3-year starter under the direction of head coach Bobby Bowden, and during his collegiate career, he recorded 194 tackles and 9 interceptions. Perhaps the highlight of his time at Florida State was his role in the punt-Ruski play. The Noles were pitted against rival Clemson in a 1998 contest. There was about 1 minute and 30 seconds left to play with a score tied at 21, and FSU was backed up to its own 21-yard line facing 4th down. From the sideline, Coach Bowden called for a fake punt play that he had drawn up earlier and a team had practiced for. The snap, instead of heading to the punter, went to the back, Dane Williams, and he took it and then slipped the ball to Butler, who ended up running 78 yards before being taken down. It had caught the Tigers flat-footed and set up the game-winning field goal for the Seminoles to win the game. Now, LeRoy was selected by the Green Bay Packers in the second round of the 1990 NFL Draft, and Butler admitted that when Lindy Infante, who was the head man of Green Bay at the time, called him about the Green Bay selection, the new Packer told his boss that he wasn't even quite sure where Wisconsin even was. He soon figured it out in his geography and where his place was in the NFL too. During the 12 seasons with the franchise, he played in 181 regular season games, 14 playoff games, and won a Super Bowl ring after defeating the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 31 at the end of the 1996 season. His career stats are off the charts as he recorded 953 tackles, 38 interceptions, and 553 return yards, 12 fumble recoveries, 3 defensive touchdowns, and 20.5 sacks. This made him become the first defensive back in the history of the league to reach the 20-sack, 20-interception milestone. Remember, he's a defensive back, a safety. Butler was either the leader or tied for the top spot in the team in interceptions in 5 different seasons with the Pack, and he was also credited as being the player that created the famous Lambeau Leap, where the Packers players celebrate by jumping into the stands after a big play, such as a score. To complete his career resume, as previously mentioned, he was selected an All-Pro 4 times and was selected to the Pro Bowl 4 times, 1993, 96, 97, 98, and he was named to the NFL's All-Decade Team of the 1990s by the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and later inducted in the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame in 2007. He was not only a good teammate when he played, but he still shows up to support fellow former players, even being an ear for them to sound their problems to, and even he's been known to prevent some suicidal thoughts through some of them. Now, LeRoy Butler III, that poor kid from the ghetto that could never be able to walk normally, defied the odds and became one of the top athletes that professional football has ever seen, and possibly even a better human being. So we're glad you were able to share this little bit of football history with us today, talking about the legendary Hall of Famer LeRoy Butler, going into the Hall of Fame in 2022's enshrinement class in the summer of 2022. And what an exciting thing that's got to be for him and his family, especially everything that young man had to overcome to become the great football player that he did become. So hope you'll join us each and every day for some more football history. We'll be back tomorrow with more. So till then, have a great gridiron day. Peeking up at the clock, the time's running down. We're going to go into victory formation, take a knee, and let this baby run out. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back tomorrow for the next podcast. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Jean Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Are you having a hard time figuring out what to get Dad for Father's Day? You should check out Row 1 Brand's Vintage Pictorum Gallery. They have America's best sports art. With over 7,200 historic sports prints, you're assured to find something unique for Dad this Father's Day. Instead of a boring old tie, get him a historic baseball photo taken by Henry High Sandom at the historic Polo Grounds Stadium in New York City during the 1894 Temple Cup. Or, if he's an NFL buff, check out the 1963 vintage NFL poster. These are so good looking that you'll be amazed how they turn out. Shop now at sportshistorynetwork.com/row1 and save 15% off your order.